Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back to the course titled Strategic Communication for Sustainable Development. My name is Aradhna Malik and I am helping you with this course. And in the previous lecture, we discussed a very interesting and upcoming field called community informatics. And in this lecture, we will discuss the challenges to the implementation of ICTs. So, we talked about what information and communication technologies can do for the community, how they are used in community development, especially in sustainable development. Now we'll discuss some of the challenges and some of the issues that are there in dealing with the implementation of the ICTs, especially in rural areas where this development work is going on. So the dream here is, the first point here is the dream. What do we dream about? What do we talk about? What do we think about when we talk about work in rural areas? We talk about using the latest technology. We say, oh great, this is the new technology that has come up, and I'm talking from the perspective of a teacher, of a faculty member at the Indian Institute of Technology, where newer technologies are coming up every day, where we are learning newer things every single day, where we are aware of all the great technological changes and advancements that are taking place in the rest of the world on a daily basis. And so from the point of view of a teacher in IIT Kharagpur, I'm discussing these things, and we are, great technology, this is what this technology can do. And my dream when I go into a rural area is, and when I take all this knowledge, my dream is that using the latest technology will help me solve the age-old problems in a flash like this. That is not going to happen. So that is one big challenge. It's not that simple. The vision, when I think about these things, is I need to go beyond connectivity. I need to go above and beyond whatever anyone has thought of before. I need to promote enabling environments. I need to minimize threats and risks. I need to maximize positive results. And the concern after all of this, it's nice to have dreams. It's not only nice, it is essential to have these dreams and the vision of going above and beyond what anyone else has thought of till now, or what anyone has been able to do till now. Unless we have those dreams, unless we have the vision, we cannot progress. This vision and these dreams give us the energy that is required to make changes in existing structures. But then the concern that brings us back down to earth from these high-flown ideas is that, can the internet really contribute to development? Is the internet really the solution? How do we know that the internet can and will contribute to development? Why can it not be something else? The other thing that we forget about is, do we start with the assumption that the community is not doing what it needs to do, that the community is not aware of the problems it has? Is it not trying to solve those problems? Are we as outsiders really equipped to understand how our technologies are going to help people solve their age-old problems? I know I'm making a very, very strong statement here, and some people who listen to this may not agree with it, and some people may even feel offended. But then I'm taking that risk to share my concerns in a public forum, because I feel very strongly about public participation, about community participation. Unless we talk to the community, unless the community understands, unless we respect the efforts of the community, we cannot make any sustained changes in the community. However good our intention is, unless we understand what the community is all about, unless we become part of the community, unless we see things as insiders, we cannot bring about any changes in the community. Okay, some non-negotiable conditions, and again this is from a paper by Mr. Gumuzio Dagron, and I mean amazing activist, and you know it's his papers are so focused, and they're so on the dot. And you know, you must read his work if you really want to get a sense of what activists feel about how technologies and modern day technologies can help the environment, and how especially how communication practices and communication strategies can help the environment. I've become a big fan of Mr. Gumuzio Dagron, especially after reading his work in the course of developing this MOOC course. So he says that there are few non-negotiable conditions for ICTs, which means these are the things that we absolutely must pay attention to. But in paying attention to these ICTs, we also come across a variety of problems. The first non-negotiable condition for ICTs is community ownership. Community has to own the issue, community has to own the development efforts, but some problems are number and visibility of community driven ICT initiatives. How many such initiatives exist? Community has to own these initiatives, but how many of these initiatives actually exist in the community? Most of the times the policymakers, the people who are funding the efforts, the people who are equipped to go and do things in the community are the ones who go and take care of things in the community. The community in many cases does not own the initiatives, it just tolerates them, it bears the impact. Many times these initiatives help the community, sometimes they don't. Coherence between participatory needs assessments and implementations of ICTs in communities. So we conduct participatory needs assessments and then we go and implement ICTs. We go and share what we have, and the link between what we have found out about the community and what we are actually doing is missing in many cases. Emphasis seems to be more on access to ICTs than the implementation of ICTs to solve problems. Many times people will tell you, let them have access to these things, they learn how to use them. I differ. I'm sorry, but till we actually know how to use something, just having access to something is not really going to solve our problem. Many times, I gave you an example of or maybe I did this in class, of how computers are used in our offices. In many offices, the computer is used, or the Excel program is used just as a means of tabulating data. The programs within Excel or within an Excel spreadsheet are not really used to their full capacity. People don't even know that they can even add things in the Excel program. They don't want to, or they don't learn how to do the same thing. Similarly, the internet. How many of us use the internet to actually form connections and get information and use that information? Many of us just use it as a magazine. Many of us use the internet as a magazine. One information leads to another, we read about it, we gossip about it, we forget about it. So it's more of or maybe it's a newspaper for us, what's happening in the rest of the world, and that's about it. The internet is capable of, we can use the internet for so many more things than just using it as a magazine or a newspaper. But most of us do that. So is the actual utility really there? And especially in areas that cannot afford these technologies, are we really, is it really necessary to put these technologies there? Without explaining the complete extent of these technologies, or without explaining, or without having the people accept what these technologies can do for them. So that seems to be the problem here. The emphasis is, let's go and give them computers, let's go and give them cell phones. How do you use cell phones? What all can you use these cell phones for? Do we tell them that? Maybe not. And how can you use cell phones to solve your problems? No. Priorities of ICT projects tend to be influenced more by the interest of external organizations rather than community-based organizations. Community-based organizations should be the ones deciding how the efforts are going to pan out. And I'll share an example with you, a personal story with you. I interned with an organization that is based in, an organization based out of Norway, but that had projects running in different parts of Romania, and this was in the year 2001, summer of 2001. So I went with a group of six, we were a group of 6 students, so 5 other ladies from different medical colleges. And I was not in a medical college, but I just, I became part of this group through an application that I submitted. And we went to an orphanage in a place called Iași, IASI, spelled as IASI in Romania. And the day before we went to this orphanage, we had the idea was to volunteer in this orphanage. So we made our plans, we'll go there, we'll do this, we'll do that, etc. And we went there, and on the very first day, this was a 3-week internship, and on the very first day we sat down with the senior administrator of that orphanage, and on the very first day we were told that a lot of people came and tried to implement things, and then so we were young, and we were just listening to the administrator, and the administrator told us that all we need you to do is spend time with these children. We don't want you to come in and try different things. We don't want you to teach these children something. We'll take care of all of that. We understand where these children are coming from, but these are children between the ages of a few months to, I think they were there up to the age of 12, and then they were shifted to a different orphanage. So we were volunteering, and they said the only help we need from you is to spend time with these kids, because we don't have time to play with these kids, we don't have time to just sit and bond with the children, and that is what the children seem to need at this point. We need to listen to the community. We need to do what they need us to do. We cannot go and force ourselves, or we cannot go and just, influence them with what we need from them. We need to give them what they need. So, and I can understand people who fund these efforts have, they also need to see some output. But at the end of the day, the community has to benefit in whichever way it wants to be benefited from our efforts. It's not only the money, it's not only the food, it's also having an open mind sometimes, just having a place to voice their opinion. Maybe even that will help. So through our experience in Romania, everybody benefited. The children had smiles on their faces, and we said, okay, we'll do whatever you want us to do. And everybody was happy. So all we did was go and play with the children, and then we would come back and say, okay, this is what we found out, this is what we found out. But we were able to help the orphanage just by being there for 3 weeks. We took the children off their hands so they could look after the administration, they could clean their beds, they could, they were short staffed, and they could take care of other things that would make the lives of these children comfortable. So that is what we are talking about here. Thematic sectors applied often reflect an economic market related focus. So we put in some input, we want a measurable output. Sometimes that may not be possible, sometimes that may not be what is required. Once the community is comfortable, it has learned something, it will become sustainable. The reward lies in the community, in the lives of the people becoming more comfortable. That is the reward. It's not about money. But then again, I can understand things from the point of view of the people who put their time and money into such efforts. The availability of ICTs is not connected to awareness, skills required to use those ICTs, or to technical literacy among the beneficiaries. So whatever the ICTs that are taken to these communities are not really connected to the awareness that is there, to people knowing what these ICTs are, to their skills that they need to use these ICTs, or to even basic technical literacy among the community. The remedy for this is, again, community involvement and participation in the design, the adaptable part of the design of these ICTs, community ownership. This is my technology, it's for my benefit. That will in turn contribute to our vision of sustainable development. The other local non-negotiable condition is the local content. We need local content. Perfectly all right, but the problems are the volume of information available regarding the local problems. So, not much information in most cases is available about the problems that these communities are facing. Lack of access to relevant information easily. Generation of specific local content is another problem. Remedies, we need to generate more local content, and I want to show you a brilliant example of a national effort in India. This is the honeybee network that has been, I'll just show you this website. This is really very nice. So this lecture is not going to be as short as I thought it would be. Okay. The honeybee network was started in the late 1990s, and by Professor Anil Gupta of the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and he was awarded the Padma Shri as far as I know. And so, you know, it's an amazing network of practitioners. What they do in this network is they collect stories about solving problems in the field, and they share these stories in the local language with people in that region. So for example, let me see what language this is. This is Gujarati. Okay, I'll just show you. Become a member. So there are local language issues are there here. So the honeybee published articles are there. When you look at these articles, they are published in local languages. Local problems are solved by local people, and these stories of these problems are then shared with people in that region in the local language. That is the Honeybee magazine. You take stories about different problems, and that used to be the format many years ago, but now of course you know, so it's amazing how, you know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We take stories about how one farmer found a big stone in his field. How did he deal with it? How did he take it out of the field? What kind of equipment did he use? What did he do with it? Or maybe a farmer suffered some loss of crop due to some local disease. What did he do? What kind of local things that did he use? What medicines did he use? So all those stories are collected, and they are shared through this magazine called the Honeybee, which is known by different names in different parts, in different languages in the country. And then it's available at affordable prices to people in the community. They read the magazine, they know what people in that region are doing, and they solve their own problems. Amazing initiative. You must go through this website and find out if you don't know about it already. That is what the Srishti network is. So Srishti network, this is the website. Srishti in Sanskrit means creation, and the name is so apt. This is the Society for Research and Initiatives in Sustainable Technological Innovations. So you must go through this. It's amazing. I'm sorry, the internet is taking a lot of time. So you can do this on your own. The link will be available for you. It's an amazing initiative. Okay, use of appropriate channels acceptable to the community. Give people information in a way that they can accept it, they can understand it. Appropriate technology. Problems. We say we should have appropriate technology. Problems here are installation or provision of the latest or most widely accepted or most fashionable technology. Lifespan of the current technology and its implications where it's installed. These things are expensive. Problems, power cuts, voltage fluctuations, etc. Optimum utilization of technology in areas where it is installed. Is it being used properly or not? And maintenance of equipment. What happens if something goes wrong? What happens if say one small plug needs to be repaired? Does anyone know how to do it? So those things are there. Remedies, again, community participation and training, respect for and use of local technology to the extent possible, integration of new technology into the existing framework, including setting up a support system to deal with the above. So that's the way we deal with this. Okay. Language and culture pertinence. The problems are language required by the community versus the language used by ICTs. I mean, ICTs are not developed in the local languages. India itself has so many languages. We can't develop ICTs in all local languages, but we can cater, we can modify them, we can adapt them to languages that most people understand. Cultural manifestations through the language that is used, and the content, language, class and culture that dominate the internet can have negative effects by generating a uniformity of ideas, preferences and world visions. Media has that role to play. Whatever is propagated through the media becomes the norm of the society, becomes acceptable to the community, becomes acceptable to society. So, again, I'm not old-fashioned. I'm not a critic of the internet. I'm a technophiliac. I'm a technophile. I enjoy technology. I learn very fast. But then there are certain limitations. We use media, we become what the media wants us to become, because there is a slew of information. There's so much there that our thinking process many times is likely to be shaped by what we see and hear on the internet. So many times a uniformity of ideas is propagated. The local variations, the diversity is somehow hampered by the ideas propagated on the net. The illusion of increased democracy and plurality produced by the interactive capacity of the internet may be misleading if it in fact reinforces existing relationships of centralized control and domination in society. Democracy versus centralization, democracy versus control, democracy versus domination. Who is more important? Who should be heard, etc. So, lack of cultural coherence between what is said and what is projected. For example, if the content deals with an Indian situation but projects a Western country, we are talking about implementing ICTs in India, but we are showing, say, some Western country over there. We are showing people with blonde hair. No, it doesn't match. So that can happen on the ICT. So one has to be very careful. The remedies are balancing cultural diversity with cultural evolution through ICTs, generation and promotion of culturally appropriate content, and community participation. The remedy for most of these problems is community participation. Convergence and networking. The sudden implementation, we want our ICTs to converge, we want them to be a part of the social milieu, but the problems here are the sudden implantation of ICTs in regions that have no prior history of ICT projects, thereby shocking the community. We just put a tower there and people say, what is this? And then children are playing and they sort of, it says don't play, danger, and children don't listen and they go in, and then so problems can happen. So we do our best and people say, why do you have this huge tower in the middle of my field? It's blocking the sunlight for my plants, and it's preventing my animals from grazing, etc. So all those things can happen. So, and then they say, okay, cell phone, why do I need to have this? And my electricity bill will go up with this small device. So there are resistances. So especially if people are not used to new technologies, they may not like to use them that much. Individual efforts as opposed to a community effort. People do things in isolation. That is one very big problem with social work. We help regions where that need help. So we don't go as a team, and unless the community accepts whatever is being shared with it, the community effort will not be there. Individual efforts eventually will run out of steam. Lack of integration with local existing networks, we've dealt with this in the previous lecture, so I will not dwell too much on this. The remedies, again, community participation. Community needs to know what is happening, it needs to be involved, it needs to have a say in whatever is happening. Citizen networks, the internet citizen networks, the internet technology projects that benefit people as citizens rather than as consumers. Projects that help marginalized groups have more control over their existence and even give them a stronger sense of identity. Citizen networks are about inclusion and how the technology can be used for democratic goals and for economic development. So these are the remedies for this. Now the bottom line, while designing ICTs, we need to pay attention to a few things. We need to pay attention to the target audience, to the channel choice, to the goals, to the resources we have, to the policies we design for their use, to the monitoring we do of these ICTs, to the content activities and to the content planning. Only then will the ICTs be accepted by the community and will they become a part of the sustainable development efforts. Role of ICTs in sustainable development, promoting policies that facilitate adequate investment and funding. Linkage between local and regional development plans and broader United Nations goals, and participation of local organizations. United Nations has these sustainable development goals that I will share with you in the last lecture. I did not talk about them till now because I wanted you to keep thinking about what this animal called sustainable development is, but we will be talking a little bit about them in the last lecture. Multi-stakeholder participation. ICTs encourage, facilitate participation by a number of stakeholders because of the sheer power they have or the sheer capacity they have to reach large number of and large variety of audiences. Protecting freedom of expression and human rights online. Closing the gender gap. I mean, participation from developing countries, building capacity to enable quality, localized content and services, addressing cybersecurity and trust, and government collaboration beyond silos. Efforts don't happen in silos. ICTs have the capacity to take our efforts out of our little fields of work and share them with the rest of the community, and eventually we can garner support from the government. So these are some of the roles that ICTs play in sustainable development, and the way we use, we need to strategize our use of ICTs if we really want our efforts to go somewhere. So that is all we have time for in this lecture, and we will wrap up whatever we have done till now in the next lecture. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope I've given you enough material to think about, to mull over, to explore on the internet on your own. I must leave you in a more confused state than you were when you started this, because I really need to leave you with a lot of food for thought. If I've been able to do that, then I've been successful in delivering the lecture that I was supposed to deliver. So thank you very much for listening.